Hey guys, today we're not covering a foreign topic on this channel, but of course it's not Axel's specialty. But I think the added value is in asking about it as an outsider, commenting on it. That can be a big advantage. But Axel, you wear that so often. Greetings, Axel, my friend.
Thank you so much for the compliment. Well, whether my questions or my comments actually add value, we'll have to see, because as is well known, this is really your topic. Yes, you were a rocker, not just a simple follower, but a pacemaker. You were a rocker boss. You gained deep insights into the organized scene, into organized crime, which you thankfully share with us. And I always really enjoy watching that too, your contributions about the Schwarze Schar and about your life, yes, in that environment. For me, it's kind of like that now, like a true crime documentary where I get to sit next to you as a viewer and maybe ask one or two questions, which isn't possible for me with a documentary I watch on television. That's why this new format excites me too, even though I'm here as a guest in a different role on your channel. But I'm happy too. I enjoy it and I'm really curious because it's a great topic. Yeah, really a topic that goes back to the roots. It makes things that happen today easier to understand. And yeah, in general, it's an exciting field, in my opinion, that hasn't gotten nearly enough attention. That has to be said too. Thumbs up to the Mopo for that, but I'm sure you have something to say about it as well.
Yeah, I'm always happy when something like that comes out. I got some information that someone who brought the Hells Angels to Hamburg, one of the first charters in Germany, flew to the United States of America. But that's about to happen. Everything was resolved as a very well-known murder case that happened in Hamburg, which later partly led to the ban of the Hells Angels in Hamburg. That was just confirmed again, so were the Hells Angels. Almost 50, almost. So 40 over 40 years, I think, banned in Hamburg, where it was just renewed again. Here comes my coffee. Thank you. That was very unprofessional of us again. Unprofessional, I know.
That's no way to turn your channel into a news outlet. You should really learn a thing or two from me. I always have to get my own drink because Caro isn't here.
I've never seen that before. You getting a drink. Well, but the...
Caro avoids being seen and always hands it to me so she never has to step in front of the camera. I always say the numbers would skyrocket if she would let us see her lovely face once in a while in front of the camera. But that's a tough nut to crack for me.
Axel, up here we see Connie Hartmann, one of the founding members, but we'll get to that in Hamburg. But he has now commented on who committed this murder after, I think, over 50 years or almost 50 years. And that's very exciting, and I'd like to get into that.
Why did he do that after all this time? I think
He spoke up now because the perpetrator he named has also passed away.
okay. He stayed quiet before to avoid snitching, but now he spoke.
But it's already happening anyway, I have to say that too. Connie Hartmann also brought that to Hamburg. The fact that the Hells Angels even exist there is because he took a different path in life than what we might imagine here. Let's get started. Glad you're here. Many find this topic interesting, so comment below. Do you think it's okay for us as a duo to cover this biker topic? What's your opinion? We would really appreciate that, of course, and I'll start now. The picture is here. Günther Connie Hartmann. Günther's quite a name too. Stark 1973 co-founded the Hamburg Hells Angels. This photo was taken right next to the Apostelkirche in Eimsbüttel, almost exactly where the parish assistant Dieter Koenig was stabbed to death in 1973. So we're talking about 50 years ago and a murder in Eimsbüttel. Now Hamburg's Hells Angels founder is revealing everything. Anyone who meets Günther Hartmann thinks, what a friendly elderly gentleman. That he, who goes by the nickname Connie, spent 7 years in prison, that he dealt drugs in his youth, that he used to have a tendency to punch anyone who crossed him in the face. No one would guess that at first. Hartmann was a tough biker who helped found the Hamburg Hells Angels in 1973. His buddy Rainer Kopperschmidt and he traveled to the United States of America and got permission at the headquarters of the world's most dangerous motorcycle gang in Oakland, California, to establish the first German charter. The Hamburg chapter of the Hells Angels, that's something that of course became a big story in Germany, especially with the defection of the Bones, which was a major German club that later joined them. That was what really gave the Hells Angels their great manpower here in Germany. I would still say the most well-known and powerful motorcycle club in the world. But of course, you also can't leave out the bandidos when talking about this. Today we're discussing Hamburg and the Hells Angels.
Yes, but back then the Hells Angels were already a very elite biker group in the United States. I find it remarkable that two German guys showed up and got that kind of trust from such an elite organization to open a branch in Germany.
I find it interesting, though I've only skimmed the article. And I just find it fascinating how things happened in the background when you refer to that. And also the topics from 1973, 1974, 1975, up into the 80s, which are repeating themselves today, like how supposed club brothers treat each other and so on. That's why I find it so fascinating. And now it says here, now Günther Hartmann wants to write a book, but why? What drives him? Is he still proud of having founded a criminal organization? It's not about pride. Who's in control? I'm the last survivor, and before I go, I want to tell how it really was. Unvarnished, I basically think.
Great ambition. So if he's really not trying to sugarcoat things like so many unfortunately do, but is actually being honest here, that's how it was. And I think it would add value, not just historically, but also by shedding light on things. How did this group start? What insider knowledge does he have? And what lessons can we learn for the future?
What was the intention and appeal of bringing that club over? I'd find that really interesting. These books all about the biker scene are perennial bestsellers. You might also think of the book by Khosrow, Thinking of the Persians, an absolute bestseller for years. Well deserved. Best regards, Khosrow. Connie Hartmann, 75, grew up in Heimfeld, adrenaline junkie, nothing but crap in his head. Here you can see a picture of him from the 1970s, as Günther says. Connie Hartmann, taken at age 24 during a court hearing in 1973. For the court?
Dressed up nicely, right?
Yeah, it's probably dressed up nicely, right? But even here, I think you can already see the belt buckle. The death head on the back is definitely a statement. But it also means he finally wants to come forward, revealing the truth about Dieter Koenig's death at age 20 in spring 1973. Hamburg Hells Angels' first murder. For 50 years, all involved, including him, stayed silent. No one revealed who used the knife back then. In an interview with Mopo, Hartmann finally speaks out. Of course, you have to add here, first of all, this 20-year-old Dieter Koenig, just imagine that. Today, he would be 70, might have had children and seen them grow up. I think he even had one. I think there was a meeting between Connie Hartmann and the daughter, just recently documented by the Mopo. You always have to ask. We'll hear in a moment what it was about. Axel, I already know that. I've already edited a video about it before. As always in these circles, these are things that are sometimes about nothing at all. This honor, pride is hurt. How dare you? And then a life is ended here just because someone didn't get to see their child grow up, their grandchildren.
I think such an important point is not just pride and honor here. And we have to assert ourselves, but also make a name for ourselves. That's always the case in such environments. They're looking for a reason so they can boast about it. We don't just talk, we act. You don't mess with us. That matters too, right? Yes.
Yes, definitely. The reputation, the name, if you haven't almost been in jail, right? The more serious the crime, the better. I was also partly in the right-wing extremist scene. So many people back then thought, yeah, prison time, and then, look, it's for the movement or something like that, that it already had something to do with your status. But even when I read this here. Axel, but who is Connie Hartmann anyway? Born in 1949. My father was born in 1942. Yeah, I mean, what different people, what different life paths. Props to my dad. I love you. You did everything great. He grows up in Heimfeld in simple circumstances, later lives in the Phoenix Viertel. His father is a sailor, his mother is a medical assistant. He reacts allergically to authorities, whether parents, teachers, or employers. He now calls himself an adrenaline junkie who always finds trouble. To many, he's a
realistic self-assessment. I mean, we know people from this environment who would say, I was already perfect back then and everyone else was the problem. It's an honest thing to admit that too.
He drops out of elementary school and also quits his baker apprenticeship. After that, he gets by with odd jobs on construction sites. When he has free time, he rides through Hamburg on his Kreidler moped. He meets like-minded people at dance clubs like the Jaja in Rothenburg Sort and Cleopatra in Raustilme. Young men with long hair, like him, who also ride motorcycles and drink beer in large quantities. Police and politicians in the 1960s were greatly concerned about rising youth crime. That's why, in 1968, the Rocker Division F534 was established in the newly built police headquarters at Berliner Tor. Hamburg, biker stronghold. The Bloody Devils joined the Hells Angels. This is the big step. In general, the influence from the United States of America, and in this subculture, the United States of America still has the greatest influence in the biker scene. The big clubs in the world came from the United States of America. I know now someone is going to mention a committee or something else, but it's all influenced by the United States of America. Here you can see his preserved vest. I don't even have mine left. They were all confiscated. I had 3 vests, one I stopped wearing, one for going out, and one for my moped. All of mine were confiscated, but the others kept their stuff. The Bloody Devils became the Hamburg Hells Angels. Günther Conny Hartmann's old vest still fits him. While the authorities use repression, some Hamburg pastors think spiritual support is better to guide bikers back to virtue. Here young Horn pastor Wolfgang Weisbach stands out. He's known as the biker pastor and wrote a book titled Bikers, Stepchildren of the Nation. His project to turn a confirmation hall in his parish into a biker bar fails because the guests, when drunk, smash everything to pieces. Exactly.
Fail?
Yeah, and it's just a shame. You want to do good, but that's just how it is. I was even like that with people who wanted to do something good for me. I destroyed that too. The main thing is, it's about destroying it. It's not mine. It's not...
It's great to have it again, that she's attractive over and over. That she can... More you do was done.
Since the early 1960s, Hamburg was known as a biker stronghold, with the wild dogs causing trouble in the city. The picture shows the Black Angels and the Steamers in Altona. The Bloody Devils from Wandsbek are infamous. 1972. They became known nationwide in 1972 when they appeared as extras in the television movie Rocker, the German answer to Easy Rider. Highly recommended. It was on YouTube recently. I still have it, but not sure if it's still downloadable. Rainer Kopperschmidt leads the group, and Mario Amtmann caused a stir in 1972 by freeing a murderer from Santa Fu in a spectacular way. Vice boss and Gornia Hartmann's secretary, all people who would later become the spearhead of the Hamburg Hells Angels. Yeah, definitely not choir boys, right? Some people always try to make it seem like they're just nice guys and it's only about riding motorcycles. Yeah, well, some people look at it and say, well, yeah, back then they were real bikers, but today they're not anymore. People always say there are too many migrants, too much of everything, and things are all mixed up. That's such a nostalgic look back, which just isn't true in many ways, you know.
But you also have that in organized crime, yeah? When you hear people from back in the day who were criminals, they always tell this fairy tale story. Back then, we still had honor. Back then, yeah, there was a code. Yeah, if someone was down, nobody did anything anymore. Back then, they also stomped each other's heads in, pulled knives, and just, yeah,
Exactly.
expressed their criminal actions. It's always shown like this. We were different and can't be compared to people today. They're wild and uncontrollable. And we actually had the plan. That's such a, yeah, self-excuse, self-canonization that you find in all these circles, you know?
Biker clubs began in the United States of America in the late 1940s, founded by war veterans struggling to adjust to civilian life. They bought Army surplus Harleys and terrorized the streets. In 1948, a group in San Bernardino, California, named themselves the Hells Angels after a World War II bomber squadron. Are there also photos of a bomber with the logo on it? It quickly developed into a feared criminal organization. Europe's first chapters began in London in 1969 and Zurich in 1979. I attended Zurich's 40th anniversary in 2010. Were we in Zurich or Basel for the 40 years? Hamburg became the third in 1973. Yes, you have to say this. We can add input here. Axel 2020.
Many
who leave the military, I have met some in Germany as well, are then looking for a new brotherhood. Some of them end up with groups like the Brothers Motorcycle Club, or even with the Hells Angels or Bandidos, because they miss that sense of camaraderie. Often, this strict hierarchy, this masculinity, this visibility, you could say, has a strong appeal. Many leaving these Bundeswehr eras may even join right-wing extremist groups, right?
don't just focus on now, consider the past too. The problem after the First World War was that an incredibly large part of the militarized nations never found their way back to normal life. Yes, they were aimless, they were no longer honored the way they were used to. Yes, and then they formed paramilitary groups, Freikorps, the Sturmabteilung. Yes, that's what happened. Basically, those were exactly the same soldiers who founded the Hells Angels in the United States of America. Yes, namely those who said, we want the same camaraderie, we want hierarchies again, we want order. Sometimes we want to strike, not talk. The chatterboxes can ignore us. So you can definitely see parallels there, I think, right?
So, props go out first. Andy Mobo, we want to give some new input on this article here. Of course, that's the foundation, and to include the knowledge in the writing. A Swiss Hells Angel hires Hartmann and owes him quite a bit afterwards. Here you can see the guys, it also looks like it's from another time. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Never forget rebellion. For him, long hair was rebellion. People often forget that, but you shouldn't. Yeah, but just not cutting your hair and walking around like that was already rebelling against your parents and the establishment, right?
Of course, obviously that was a no-go, really, you know.
Long hair, leather jacket, and a beer in hand. The bloody devils just before joining the Hells Angels. On the far left drinking is Conny Hartmann. Next to him is club boss Rainer Kopperschmidt. So here you see Conny Hartmann in his younger years, and next to him the later boss of the Hells Angels, Hamburg. At first, the Hells Angels are only known by hearsay in the trading city. In 1970, real flesh and blood ones first appear in Hamburg. Members of the Zurich, okay,
Zurich Chapter,
who decide to turn their backs on Switzerland for a while after a rape case. Their arrogance and the fear they spread leave an impression on Conny Hartmann. He befriends them and decides he wants to be just like them. In August 1971, a significant incident occurs in Zell that impacts the story. Because young thugs are rioting in the Old Town, business owners, in their desperation, call for help from a Zurich Hells Angel who goes by the name Plump Thumb Pitt, reports Hartmann. He is supposed to get the troublemakers off their backs. Pitt realizes that he can't handle the task alone and asks the Bloody Devils for support. Hartmann and his buddies are there right away. A mass brawl breaks out, and at the end of the day, Plump Thumb Pitt owes the Hamburg rockers a big favor. Yes, that's how simple this world is, but again here we see the overlap between business and crime. Here, we're always dealing with rowdies in the city. I've mentioned this overlap often in my series. There is a great acceptance of organized crime, maybe even of biker gangs in certain business sectors. That's reality. And it was already like that here more than 50 years ago.
The idea is, you know, there are people you can make arrangements with, they get money and they leave you alone. The young troublemakers out there are uncontrollable, you can't rein them in, so I'll get the ones who can. Of course, that's an understandable thought for people whose finances or even their very existence might depend on it. If you're not a big boss, people like that who hassle you and drive away your customers can really cost you your livelihood.
Pitt, who is wanted by Interpol for a series of crimes, returns to the United States of America where he joins the Hells Angels in Lowell, Massachusetts. Oh God.
Yes.
My English is getting worse and worse. Conny Hartmann and he talk on the phone regularly. At the beginning of 1973, Pitt has news. He convinced his club to support the Bloody Devils application. His old club in Zurich has also given the green light. Come to the United States of America and pick up the permit in person. The start for the Hells Angels, Hamburg, Rainer Copperschmidt, and Connie Hartmann travel to the United States of America and get the green light. This shows the first president of the Hamburg Hells Angels. So here you can already see the death head and
a Rolex t-shirt, yeah.
yeah, so that's already snap.
Symbols must exist in the biker world too.
Some tracks have already been set. Rainer Copperschmidt and Connie Hartmann quickly borrow money for tickets and fly out on February 15th, 1973. First, they head to Lowell, Massachusetts. I can't quite remember it all today. From there, they continue on to the West Coast. In Oakland, a rough port and industrial city on the San Francisco Bay, is the headquarters of the Hells Angels. In an ordinary wooden house with many Hardys parked outside, as Hartmann recalls. The biker guests from good old Germany are welcomed by Edward James Deacon Proudfoot, who is temporarily leading the motorcycle club because President Ralph Sonny Barger is currently in jail. There's beer and even more beer. In between, Proudfoot explains what makes a Hells Angel. Unconditional solidarity and support at any cost. Proudfoot finally shakes hands with Copperschmidt and Hartmann. Angel, forever, forever, angel. Sadly, many have said this, but forever always has an end date.
Next, you'll tell me that there's division in the neo-Nazi scene and that not everyone there will be comrades forever. All right, that's enough now. Philipp Schlaffer. Yeah.
You have to. You really have to take a close look at a lot of people. Of course, there are people who have been involved for a very, very long time, but there are significantly more who have only spent a short time there. Sometimes, just a change in the club, like new members joining or old ones leaving, was enough. So there's a huge coming and going, which some probably can't even keep track of anymore. Who is in the club and who is no longer in the club? That's worldwide. The so-called patchover, marking the Hamburg Bloody Devils transition, seals their fate with the Hells Angels. March 16th, 1973 is considered the founding day of the Hamburg Hells Angels. A few days later in New York, when the powerful Hells Angels boss Sandy Alexander hands him the vest with the patch, the winged skull. For Hartmann, is that like Christmas, Easter, and other holidays combined? He laughs, barely understanding the excitement now. Yes, but that's an honest answer. That's what it used to do to you. You've reached your goal, traveled there, invested time and money, talked a lot, made promises, and are being watched. Then you get that in your hands. For many people, this patch over, these rituals, these symbols are things people are willing to kill for. It's a patch. Some people don't understand that. It's a patch that costs a few euros. But to some people, it means the world, the whole world. And they're willing to commit serious crimes to defend these patches, to stand up for them.
You become part of a mystified community. It's an elite group that you finally belong to. You're no longer just anyone. You've received the initiation. You're accepted by the brothers. Now, all of a sudden, you inspire fear and respect in others. For many, that's already everything. Especially for young people who are used to asserting themselves and standing their ground on the street, that's an extra thrill. To say, now I belong to the big players, now I'm not just anybody anymore, now I give the orders and I don't let anyone boss me around anymore.
We can't stick to the format today, but I'll try to speed things up. Less than 4 weeks later, there's already the first death in Hamburg. Here too, it's important to note that it was a young man, just 20 years old, the first victim of the Helsingen in Hamburg. Church volunteer Dieter König, aged 20 in 1973. Stabbed to death. This is how stories become real again, with a woman and a child. Absolutely terrible. Back in Hamburg, Copperschmidt and Hartmann are surprised to find that out of the 35 members of their motorcycle club, only 11 are left. The others chickened out and ran away because they were afraid things would get tougher now, says Hartmann. Hardly had the Hells Angels Hamburg been founded when there was already the first death. It's April 14th, 1973, early afternoon. Connie Hartmann and a woman, a second Hells Angel, demand entry into the parish hall of the Apostelkirche in Eimsbüttel. The basement party room was a popular hangout for the scene back then. Dieter König, a former biker and now church helper, says the club remains closed. You're not getting in. There's a fight. Hartmann's companions are driven off. But a few hours later, they come back with reinforcements and show that no one gets in a Hells Angels way without consequences. Fists fly, knives flash. Suddenly Dieter König lies menacingly on the ground. Yeah, I already said it, so why repeat it? We're talking about a party room. It's not open yet. Wounded ego, wounded inadequacy.
Also, the fear of losing what you've now paid dearly to get. As they say, hell can't be chased away. Now, as the Brotherhood's representative, you can't be a wimp. Yeah, of course. Then you have to show who's in charge here. You have to show it. If you beat us, we'll return with a knife. If you win again, we'll bring a gun, and so on. Because you don't control us, we control. That's the idea behind it, right? Yeah.
Whoever stabbed has kept a closely guarded secret for decades. Today, half a century later, it's time to tell the truth, says Connie Hartman, and spills it. It was Peter Graben. Are those clickable links, Peter Graben?
Maybe to other articles. No, yes.
Here you see Peter Graben, known as the Hells Angels enforcer. It's also a very charming photo. He had women lick his boots. Not an unknown name. On the contrary, Graben is actually considered one of the most formidable men in the history of the Hamburg Hells Angels. Hartman's voice turns harsh. Just punching the king would have been enough, but Graben had to kill him. If I regret anything from my biker days, it's the king's death and meeting Graben. Yes.
The message is clear, but better late than never, though it is very late. Well, that would have certainly meant something to the relatives if they had known that the murderer could be apprehended and held accountable for it. That is really quite late, you have to say.
It's unbelievable to read this here, to see bikers like this. The state lied to us, they lied to us, we demand educators. Well, that's really crazy. I mean, today it's unimaginable, you know? In early 1973, bikers in Eimsbüttel protested the closure of a church-run biker meeting place. The state lied to us, we demand educators. That's what it says on the banner, so it's a completely different action, totally out of place today. No, after 5 decades, Connie Hartman breaks his silence and says, who stabbed? Regicide has consequences, because the police are searching for him. The 6 of them, including Fels, immediately fled the scene. They drive to Freiburg in a Ford 17M, then switch to a train heading toward the Swiss border. To avoid checkpoints, they swim through Basel in the icy Rhine. In Switzerland, biker brothers from Zurich welcome them. The group now splits into 3, including him. Grab and the others escape with forged passports through London and Mont-Royal to New York, where they hide for years. Kopperschmidt, Hartmann, and Amtmann stay in Switzerland and initially feel safe. Things were about to change, as we now see images from the courtroom at the regional court in December 1973. Members of the Hells Angels are on trial for the death of Kirchner Dieter König, Hans-Joachim Sie, Dieter E., Mario Amtmann, and Connie Hartmann.
But at first it sounds like an action movie, like where we'll swim across, get hidden by the brothers, and be received by them. You could make a nice crime story out of that too, right?
I'm sure we'll make it. Until May 11, 1973. That's when, on Aktenzeichen X-Wild, Ungelöst with Eduard Zimmermann, their wanted photos flash across the television screen. Convinced that it's now only a matter of time before they're caught, Kopperschmidt and Hartmann turn themselves into the authorities. Amtmann goes his own way, but is arrested shortly afterwards.
It's really, really brief, just to throw that in again really intensely. I'm also very interested in pop culture, in what kind of influence a show like Aktenzeichen XY had back then. That was actually something that even made the tough guys who were on the run say, oh, it's over now, we've been broadcast on television screens, now we'd rather turn ourselves in. That wouldn't be imaginable today. No, even then the show already carried enormous power and responsibility.
You might need to read more carefully, we're not sure either, it's internal. In December 1973, the Hamburg Regional Court convicted Hartmann and others of joint aggravated assault causing death. I got 4.5 years, says Hartmann. While I was in prison, my son Mark was born. After his release, Hartmann becomes a taxi driver and part-time drug dealer. He explains how he hides coke inside bicycle frames and smuggles the stuff from South America to Europe that way. He gets caught and is sentenced to 10 years in prison for drug trafficking, but he serves less than half of that time.
You know, for a person who lost their life, it's 4.5 years, and for coke, it's 10 years. Yeah, I don't know. As someone who's not a legal expert, it's hard for me to find any relation there too.
I can only relate that to old people who were carried over from the Nazi justice system, where maybe human life still didn't count for anything, and a degenerate society with drugs was probably seen as even worse than taking a human life. It was simply an assumption on my part. I can't explain it any other way. Axel. He left the Hells Angels in 1979. They came to my house, took my vest, and all the photos where I was seen as a Hells Angel. They beat me up as a farewell, he says. Get lost were their last words before the Bloody Devils became the Hamburg Hells Angels.
It can happen that fast. At first, it's like brothers for life. We'd give each other the shirt off our backs, even kill for one another. Then you just say, no, I just want out without betraying anyone, without having done anything wrong. And then the brothers just beat your face in and say, then get lost, we don't know you anymore, you're an outcast. That should really make you think. Who believes they're all like that? Here are your lifelong best buddies. No.
Out in bad standing, you have several options. I just left without any problems. Out in bad standing basically means you're an outlaw. There are even rumors that if you're out in bad standing, if a Hells Angel or someone from one of the big clubs sees you, depending on how they interpret it, you might have to be hunted or attacked. There are a lot of different interpretations. I don't want to go out on a limb here. I don't know how it works internally in the individual clubs. I don't know. That's what I've heard from personal stories. Being out and in bad standing means nothing works anymore. You're not allowed to have contact with anyone. No one is allowed to talk to you. You're not allowed to justify yourself anymore. That's it then. Among bikers, being kicked out is called out in bad standing or dishonorable. Why? Because Hells Angels boss Copperschmidt was convinced that Hartmann was a traitor, a police informant. He allegedly alerted police to a drug deal. Hartmann claims innocence, but no one believes him. He's lucky to be alive. Yes.
God, they don't waste any time there. That's about the worst accusation you can make in those circles. You're a traitor, you're working with the police, that's already...
Always cause problems for everyone.
Sure, bye.
Out bad standing. Hartmann gets kicked out of the Hells Angels and survives. After that, Hartmann watches from afar as the Hells Angels become more and more brutal. They enter prostitution and open brothels. In April 1980, a nightclub owner on Sylt is killed for ejecting 2 drunk Hells Angels. That brings back memories of the death of Dieter Koenig. At the beginning of the 1980s, the Hells Angels started terrorizing pub owners in the Schanzenviertel. Peter Grabe stars in this. There's your name again. The 2.07 meter tall man, nicknamed Zick Zack for his SS tattoo, collects protection money. Those who refuse to pay the stay-away fee of 1,000 marks a month get a visit from him. After that, he likes to ride his motorcycle right up to the bar and force guests to lick his dirty boots. The stay-away fee is something that has been passed on. I still remember when discos, bars and pubs in Rostock were targeted for extortion. If they didn't pay, people would march in, sit down, and terrorize the guests and the whole place. This stay-away fee isn't made up or outdated. It's still common practice for many.
The classic protection money, like you don't want any trouble from us, then you pay.
Here you can see the arrest of members of the Hells Angels. The club was banned in 1983 and it still is today. In 1983, Social Democratic Party Interior Senator Alfons Pawelczyk lost his temper. 500 police officers raid Angels Place on Schanzenstraße, seizing weapons and motorcycles. 13 bikers are taken to court. The Hells Angels have been banned, and members can't show their colors, but the gang still exists. In fact, they still run their illegal businesses successfully. Prostitution and drugs continue to make them money. From the founding generation of the Hamburg Hells Angels, practically only Conny Hartmann is left. From the founding generation of the Hamburg Hells Angels, only he remains. Conny Amtmann died in 2017 at 65, Rainer Copperschmidt in 2020 at 69, and Peter Grabe in 2023 at 72. Rainer Copperschmidt and Conny Hartmann. The 75-year-old sold his motorcycle. After 47 years, he may be the city's longest-serving taxi driver. He lives alone in a condo in the east. His greatest pride is his son, who lives in Switzerland as a doctor. Again, there's repeated overlap with Nazi memorabilia here. Here you can see the swastika, the imperial eagle with the swastika, down the Alpha Angels, Forever Angels. In the United States of America, the overlap between biker culture and symbols is a major topic for many motorcycle clubs.
Winigidis or something like that, or more here. Deliberately micro-blending.
Some Hess Angels also had an extremely right-wing attitude, as well as Hitler mustaches, eagles, swastikas, and moonshine. These were seized during the raid in 1983. The abbreviation ANGEL. Forever, forever. ANGEL stands for Angel. Forever, forever. ANGEL. It has to be said again and again, but these things were also often used to shock people during the conservative Daman era. Those were symbols that also shocked people. You never really knew what ideology was behind them. Many Americans used that to shock others, even within their own system. But of course, many people also wore and adopted it out of a fundamentally racist attitude. About that.
Oh, it's a common image, seeing biker types who had SS runes on their motorcycle helmets. And that was very, very widespread for a while. Also,
he says he's glad that he has nothing to do with today's Hell's Angels anymore. That they kicked me out was my luck. For me, what they're doing today has nothing to do with biker life anymore. I don't think it did in the past either, you know? We heard very quickly here how it came to murder and manslaughter to extortion. Guys, that might be just one part. I'm not sure everything was better in the past, and I don't want to assume that. Looking back, he sees his youth with the Hells Angels as an adventure. One that I paid for with several years of imprisonment. Yes, the conclusion is, it was an adventure.
a bit wistful, yes, just a little. That feeling is there. It was a great time. What kind of freedom and rebellion did we find here? And what great things did we experience? From the very beginning, it was a story that wasn't just about living it up, but where criminal activities quickly became rampant. And where it quickly became about joining an organization that from the very beginning in the United States of America had a strongly criminal status and impulse.
Yes, repeatedly returning to the topic was very interesting to me. I clicked on it immediately when I saw it. Okay, the murder from back then, and because of the ban, someone has now commented on it, which I always find exciting, especially before all these eyewitnesses have passed away to talk about it. Of course, a lot has changed in this scene. It has become more modern. It also uses social media. There are also real stars on the internet when it comes to hits who get a lot of clicks and are promoted accordingly.
There are press spokespersons. In fact, there are press spokespersons whose only job is to communicate the club's narrative to the press. For example, we're just a normal club here. We're all about riding motorcycles. Everything else is fake news.
To be fair, not everyone in this club is a criminal. That's part of it for me because I've also met people there who ride motorcycles. There are charters and chapters in all these clubs that have little or even nothing to do with crime. But who says there aren't structures within the club that also cross national borders? And the likelihood of encountering someone there who does criminal things is simply much higher than in normal society. So Axel, thank you very much for doing this with me today. It's a topic that we keep coming back to. Feel free to comment on how you feel about us repeatedly addressing the biker topic whenever there is news about it. Otherwise, thanks for the support. Thumbs up, thumbs down, feel free to comment. Axel's book, I Was the Hitler of Cologne, is out now. Check it out. And don't forget mine too. Philip Schlaffer, once a neo-Nazi and red light rocker, shares his story. Otherwise, you already know about the different ways to support the beef bandits here. Thanks. Philip C covers meat, rubs, and more. Some ads are needed and it's all at ZEGG+. But otherwise, under this video, there are channel members, Patreon, and so on. Check it out. Thanks for being here. Axel, I appreciate your input. I'll stop now. We've reached 39 minutes. I'll keep it short and sweet. As always, I remain with an ahoy from the coast.